Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Workers' Mic, powered by the Midwest Coalition of Labor, right here on 720 WGN. My name is Ken Edwards from the Midwest Coalition of Labor. Sitting to my left is Ed Maher from the International Union of Operating Engineers. Good morning, Ed.
Good morning, Ken. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Fantastic. It's a beautiful day.
So let's get right to it because it's important. We talked last week a little bit about this problem of
child labor.
Yeah, children working,
right?
And not delivering newspapers.
Yeah, we're not talking about.
It's not like being a lifeguard.
Yeah, we're talking about processing livestock, things like that.
Yeah, so more has come to light.
Yes,
and I want to start back with Iowa.
Right. I mean, Iowa. We reported a couple of weeks ago about a law that was working its way through the legislature, and it continues to do so, that would remove a lot of the restrictions that prohibit kids from working in dangerous situations. And with a little bit more information, there's been a lot more reporting on this since we talked about it. But we talked about kids as young as 14 being able to work in mining and construction and, again, like slaughterhouses, things like that. And the way that the state is kind of getting around laws or kind of making this happen is they call it a work-based learning program.
Which is just the most disingenuous thing I've ever heard.
Right. So instead of going to school, kids can do work-based learning where you send them into a mine or send them into a slaughterhouse as though that's going to contribute in some way to their education.
Sure.
But the most sort of nefarious thing about this is that the legislation provides employers immunity from any kind of civil liability if a child is hurt, killed, or gets sick in any of these jobs that are part of a work-based learning program. So,
if you're a legislator in one of these places, like, how do you sign that into law? I just don't understand. So what is the impetus?
The people that are behind it are saying this is a way to help us deal with a job shortage,
which is ridiculous. What happened to all these migrants, that are taking our jobs, and foreigners are taking our jobs? Is there a job shortage, or is there not a job shortage? Because all of a sudden, we're seeing thousands and thousands of layoffs.
Right.
So how is there a job shortage if all of a sudden there's layoffs? Now, maybe there's a job shortage in places that pay garbage wages or that are really dangerous.
Just a shortage of workers who want to do something for minimum wage or who want to do hard work for little pay.
Absolutely. And so one thing I found interesting was there was an article, I think it was in the Quad City Times, which is borders Iowa and Illinois. And it's the union, of course, that came out and said, our kids are not for sale.
Right.
And,
well said.
And it really
shouldn't have to be said.
Of course it shouldn't have to be said. But, of course, the unions, harken back to, the 1900s and the late 1800s when kids were working in coal mines.
Right.
We're literally back to this. We're 100-plus years in the future, and we have gone all the way back to unions, once again, having to say, hey, our kids should not be working here.
Yeah, I mean, I've run into people over the years who, aren't against unions, but sort of ask, kids aren't in the coal mines anymore.
Yeah,
so
what do you need a union for?
Yeah, what do we need unions for anymore? And, unions do an awful lot of things that are very valuable to workers, but right now it's as though we're going back in time because kids are going back to work and it's the unions that are fighting against it.
And it's not just Iowa now. The New York Times did a really lengthy piece, and if you get a chance, you should look it up.
Yeah.
They did several pieces. One was an opinion piece, but one was a really in-depth look. They interviewed like 100
last Sunday.
kids. Yep. Was it last Sunday?
It was last Sunday.
They interviewed, 100 kids?
Yeah, 100 kids from, I think, 20 states working in all kinds of different professions.
And now these kids, by the way, are not just they're not just kids that are from the United States. There are kids now crossing the borders by themselves to come and take these jobs, allegedly coming to meet, a family member who they've never met before and quite frankly probably doesn't exist. And all of a sudden, the Times found, at least in its article, said that, American companies, Ford, Fruit of the Loom, General Motors, J. Crew, Walmart, shocking,
Whole Foods,
Target, shocking, are having these kids work at night. Right. And, I saw some other videos, kids roofing.
Right.
Roofing.
Well, they had a story. They talked to 100 kids. I mean, this is a problem that's impacting clearly thousands, tens of thousands, maybe hundreds of thousands of children. But they had a 13-year-old that was making wooden planks for flooring, working in a factory near like buzz saws. And
Sure.
it was a little girl, and she said that she used to get sick all the time, and it made her really worried. But now she's just kind of gotten used to being sick all the time. This is a 13-year-old. And it's not as though these factories are filled with 13-year-olds. There are adults in these factories.
And so that's a really good point. And
watching this happen.
Right. So I want to say this, directly to anybody that's listening, especially the people that are working alongside these kids. Shame on you. Shame on you for letting it happen. If you are working next to a kid that is doing something dangerous, and you know that kid is underage and shouldn't be working there, you have a moral obligation to report it. Period. The end.
Yeah. And if you're in Iowa, where they're trying to pass a law to let this happen, where you're going to encourage 14-year-olds to come work in slaughterhouses, there just has to be a better alternative, whether it's supporting raising wages for those jobs to make more people apply for them, or creating some sort of a program for migrant workers or other types of workers to have access to those jobs and pay taxes. If either of those things is worse to you than sending your child to work in a slaughterhouse, you don't have a moral compass.
That's right. Then you have a problem. And you need to be a good parent. You need to be a good neighbor.
And a member of society.
A good member of society. You need to be a good coworker. Don't tell me that you don't know that the kid is 13 years old. Like, hey, why is Timmy, 4'2"? Oh, well, because he's 13.
Yeah, he just looks really young.
Yeah. So, do not make me do what I did to, remember U.S. Air? Do you remember that company?
Yeah.
It doesn't exist anymore. You know why?
Why is that?
I went on a one-man boycott of U.S. Air.
One man, so you stopped flying, and they felt it.
Well, look what happened. Do they exist anymore? No, they don't. So, Ford, and I love Ford, do not make me one-man boycott you.
Do you currently drive a Ford?
No.
Well,
I drive a Jeep and a Chrysler.
So it could be argued that the boycott's already underway, which would show why Ford's been dropping.
It's a decent point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll jump in on that too. I drive a Ford, but I'll stop if I have to.
All right. Well, look, and once again, if you see something, say something.
Yeah.
Look, and this, to all the Lincoln Park moms out there that pay their housekeeper off the books, would you feel the same way if that housekeeper was 13 years old? Would that be okay? I mean, I don't think, number one, either one is okay, but if you see something like this, say something about it.
Right.
Do something. Every single person that's listening, and I know there are millions of you that are listening, has a moral obligation to make child labor go away.
Right.
Period. The end.
And for those of you, we've talked about these articles. Ken and I read this stuff all day, every day. But a lot of people don't know this is happening. So
just Google it.
This is happening.
Yeah,
talk to people about it.
It's not fake news.
Yeah, and when you're talking to people and you hear about this stuff going on in Iowa or Ohio or other states that are trying to push to make it legal, be against it. Talk to people about it.
Yeah,
tell people that it's wrong.
Absolutely. Call your politicians. All of a sudden now, by the way, since the New York Times investigation and since this stuff has come to light, and by the way, thanks Iowa for actually proposing laws about it to bring it to light. The Biden administration says, "Oh, we're going to crack down now. We're going to look at this thing." Well, where were you before? And not just the Biden administration. Where were any administration before? You know what the fine is, by the way, for child labor? It's $15,000 per occurrence. $15,000.
Yeah.
To a company like Frito-Lay.
Yeah.
Are they on that? I could be wrong. Let me take that back. To a company like Ben & Jerry's, by the way. Ben &
That's
Jerry's.
a surprise. That one was
right?
a surprise.
What are they doing? Like, hey, kids, we'll pay you in, what is Cherry Garcia?
Yeah.
Right?
Half-baked.
All the ice cream.
I might actually work if the quantity of ice cream was right.
Yeah.
I might consider it.
That's a decent point. How much
Saves
ice
me
cream?
a drive to Ben & Jerry's.
Well, when they start making alcohol for, kids working in beer plants and stuff like that, I mean, that's a different story.
I will say this. One thing that I read about in this Iowa law that I forgot to mention before, it will allow kids that are 16 and 17 years old to serve alcohol.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Like they're not going to drink it.
Yeah, what could go wrong?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Bad idea. All right. Well, listen, you're listening to the Workers' Mic right here on 720 WGN. We have a great show for you today. We have Nick Cortesi coming in. Nick is the head of the MCL's Union Legal Services. Really, really good, sharp guy. We're looking forward to having him. We will be right back with more of the Workers' Mic, again, right here on 720 WGN. Welcome back, everyone, to the Workers' Mic right here on 720 WGN. I'm Ken. He's Ed. And, by the way, if you missed something...
Yeah, if you missed the first segment of the show where we talked once again about the evil of child labor, you don't want to miss that. But you can find it. The good news is you can find us on YouTube and on TikTok. But once the show is over here today at 9 o'clock, you can go on YouTube and look up the Workers' Mic, and you can find the entire show filmed on YouTube and watch it again.
Unedited, by the way.
The director's cut.
The director's cut with curse words. No, probably not.
Probably no curse words.
So let's introduce our guest. We have today with us Nicholas Cortesi, and he is the head of Union Legal Services. Good morning, Nick.
Welcome.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. It's great to have you.
Thanks for coming on. Do you prefer Nick or Nicholas?
Nick is fine.
Okay, we'll call you Nick.
At least to your face.
It's to my face, right?
So let's get down to it, Nick. 2 seconds about your background. You are an attorney, obviously, right?
Yes.
Still licensed, correct?
Still licensed.
All right. Well, there's a start, right? We're doing good already.
Yeah, he's not only an attorney, but a licensed attorney.
The day's not over yet, though.
That's a good point. And you used to do what before Union Legal Services?
Before Union Legal Services, I was in private practice for myself, various areas of law, including estate planning, personal injury, workers' compensation, family law, and property tax appeal work.
So more of a general practitioner.
More of a general practitioner, correct.
And then you worked for the Carpenters at some point, correct?
That's correct. I ran their legal services program for the Carpenters for approximately 10 years.
Wow. And that was, which I always thought was clever, 1-800-HAMMER.
1-877.
You gotta be kidding me. You were the hammer?
I was the hammer.
So I drive through different states, and every state has their own guy with the hammer. And I don't know what's up with the law hammer, but I can't believe I'm sitting next to the original hammer.
But hammer and Carpenters, that was kind of funny, I thought.
It was kind of fun. It was
clever.
a great way for the members to remember the phone number.
Yeah. And so when I met you, it was like, I hate to say it, but it was really serendipitous because the MCL, the Carpenters, were part of the founding 5 unions, right? Carpenters, laborers, operators 150 and 399, and IBW 134. And the Carpenters said, hey, why don't we use our legal services program and simply expand it? And I'm like, absolutely. God, it was an absolute godsend.
So when you talk about a legal services program, you're talking about what? Like services that are offered, like a lawyer or a legal department that's available to the members for use on
exactly.
On what?
Yeah. So explain what you do.
So we offer Union Legal Services offers our members and their family members legal services in 3 different areas of the law. First and foremost, we provide the members with free legal advice in any area of the law that they may have a problem in. The goal is to answer their question, solve their legal problem, so they don't have to spend money on an attorney.
Wow,
great.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Some questions, some examples. How do I evict a tenant from my apartment building?
Sure.
Or how do I defend myself in an eviction?
Right.
What are the different stages of divorce?
Yeah.
Everything from child support to quadros.
Yeah.
Things like that.
We'll get to that in a minute.
We'll get to that.
Yeah.
So it's
sadder,
topic.
poorer.
Right.
Poorer.
Yeah.
What do I do if I've been in a car accident? What do I do?
Sure.
Right.
Any question, any area of the law, if we don't know an answer, we'll do research and we'll get back to them. It's not only myself providing legal advice, but I have 2 retired Cook County Circuit Court judges, Greg Wojciechowski and Jim McCarthy. Mm-hmm. They work with me and give out the free legal advice to our members.
I mean, think about this, though. How many times in your life you think to yourself, God, this seems wrong, or I wish I could talk to a lawyer. I wish I knew what the law was or what my rights were, but you're not going to look for somebody and sit in an office and make an appointment and pay somebody a couple $100 for a consultation. You just pick up the phone and call you.
Exactly.
And you get the answer. I mean, that's amazing.
And talking about, having you, obviously that's been a lawyer. How long have you been a lawyer?
For over 20 years now.
Okay. And 2 retired judges?
Right.
I mean, that's like going right to the horse's mouth and going like, hey, I have this case, and here's what I would rule. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Here's why you should or should not do that.
Yeah, right.
We know all the ins and outs with the judges.
Yep.
I mean, like you just said, Ed, you'd have to sit down, make an appointment with an attorney, and right off the bat, you're going to be charged $500 to $1,000 to meet with them.
For sure.
To get the free legal advice that we're providing you. It's really that simple.
I've talked to, probably thousands now of our members that have talked with you and or Jim, and because I don't think your other judge is there yet, right?
The other judge starts next week.
What's his name again?
Gregory Wojciechowski.
Greg, Italian guy, right?
Yeah.
It's a good Italian name.
So, but I can't tell you how many people I've talked to that have said, like, this is so cool. Like, I talked to Nick, and he called me back, and he gave me really good advice, or he wrote a letter for me, or he picked up the phone and made a phone call for me, and magically my problems went away. And that it's worth its weight in gold.
Right.
And that benefit is free to our members.
It's free to the members.
Other unions and the AFL-CIO, they'll send you to, MetLife's legal services program. I'm not knocking it, but I think it's $20 a month and you get, discounts, et cetera. We have something that I think is really, really unique. As a matter of fact, I think it's the only one in the country, and that is we literally have staff attorneys that will pick up the phone and answer any question that you have. And if they don't know the answer, they'll get it, right?
Absolutely.
And you have a network of attorneys now throughout 14 states and
Right.
growing. Right, and so let's drill down a little bit further, okay?
So one of the other pieces of free legal services that we give the members,
Yep.
and it's been outstanding, is we do free property tax appeal services for our members.
That's a popular one in Cook County right
Property
now.
one in Cook County, and it's a popular one all across the United States now. The average property tax savings for a member that comes to see us is $1,900 in savings per year.
That's amazing.
Now-
Per year.
Per year. And I want to make it clear that people ask, well, do you charge a fee? Do you take a third of the fee for the savings? Absolutely not. It's free. I don't know how else we can tell the members that. The second thing we provide the members for free is free credit repair services or free credit counseling.
Yeah.
The average union member, their credit score has gone up 50 to 100 points.
Wow.
By using our services.
And that directly affects
Saves money.
your wallet, because your credit score goes up. You can lower your interest rate on your home, your credit cards,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it
Absolutely.
literally has this downstream effect of saving money. I want to go back to the property tax appeals for a second, because I've talked to tons of people who you've done property tax appeals for, and to a person, you're exactly right. I've talked to people that have over $2,000 a year in savings. You're not talking about like, hey, here's $2,000. You're talking about over 10 years, it's $20,000.
Absolutely.
You just paid your union dues for quite some time without one benefit.
Right.
Right?
Right.
I mean, I just think that, find somebody else that does that. The MCL does it. And if you're a member right now and live in certain areas in Cook County, call Nick. You'll find out whether it's your turn for property tax appeals. But
And if you're eligible, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it.
Right.
So
Right.
But they'll tell you pretty quickly.
Right. We do the free property tax analysis on your property.
Right.
If there's no grounds for an appeal, we just don't tell you there's no grounds. I provide you with a spreadsheet and analysis so you could see why there's no grounds for an appeal.
But you're also not wasting people's time, or selling them a bag of goods and saying like, hey, we're going to do this for you and just give me $500 and then we lost, right? None of that happens. You're just pretty straightforward. And I've heard you talk to people. It's like, you shouldn't do that. You should do that.
As your attorney, I advise you.
my neighbor's dog is barking a lot. I think I'm going to kill it. Like, I don't think you should.
I don't think that's a good idea.
yeah, I would advise against it.
And we're going to talk about a couple of funny ones too. But and then lastly, you also do free expungements,
That's correct. We
right?
provide free expungement services for all our members. Not that all of them need it,
Right.
but the ones that do, we have expunged their records, and it's very popular because, as we know, in certain jobs that we offer through the union, you have to have a clean criminal background.
Right.
That's right.
So,
So they're free.
so it's free, absolutely free.
And that's important, because everybody deserves a second chance. Some people earlier in life, you can make a little bit of a mistake, and
If you're
20
just
years.
if you're just tuning in, we're talking to Nick Cortesi. He is the head of the Union Legal Services, which is the legal services branch of the Midwest Coalition of Labor. Nick, we'd like you to stick around and drill down on a couple of things. Do you mind sticking around for another section of the show?
Absolutely.
Great.
All right. Well, listen, we'll be right back with the Workers' Mic right here on 720 WGN.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Workers' Mic. If you're just joining us, we are with Nick Cortesi, the Director of Union Legal Services. It's Ed Maher, again, here with Ken Edwards. So welcome back, Nick. Thanks for sticking around for another segment.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the first segment with you, we were talking a little bit about Union Legal Services and some of the things that you do, and how popular the property tax appeals have been, especially recently with the spikes that are coming through in Cook County. But other things like other services that are commonly needed by members. What do you run into? Things like divorce or criminal issues, things like that. Do you have lawyers that specialize in that?
Sure. Great question. So in addition to the two services that I mentioned earlier, we also provide discounted legal services in various areas of the law. Mm-hmm. For example, someone calls in and says, I have a DUI. What advice can you give me or guidance? And there really isn't any, except you're going to need an attorney and go to court and give a proper defense.
Right.
And you're gonna need a DUI attorney.
Somebody who knows how that works.
Yeah. So I have a network of attorneys that have agreed to work for the union, I have a network of attorneys that have agreed to provide discounted legal services to our members at either a flat rate or a discounted hourly rate.
And so you have a network of attorneys, not just here in Chicagoland, but your network now, because I lived this, extends to 12 states. And, you can get deep into, North Dakota and, you're going to find somebody for that member.
For that member, right.
And that's a really nice feeling. And, just to backtrack for a quick second, what you said I think is important. You have a network of attorneys, but it's not like I have 35 attorneys in Chicagoland that do, whatever
family
it is,
law,
labor,
exactly.
or family.
Right.
I have one,
right.
And the reason that we have one is because he's discounted his rate to such a great extent that he makes his money on volume.
Right.
Exactly.
And it's worked out well for him. It's worked out well for our members. Mm-hmm. I happen to know for a fact that, the divorce attorneys here in Chicagoland charge $400 plus an hour. That's about the going rate right now. And our guy does
$250 an hour.
And outside of Chicagoland, it's $200 an hour. Now you're literally, if you go through a divorce, I don't care, it's amicable, not amicable, et cetera, you're spending money no matter what.
For sure.
You got to go to court. You got to do this. You got to do that. And then if it's not amicable, which lots of divorces unfortunately are not.
That's what I've heard.
Right.
Yeah, have you heard that?
I have heard that.
Yeah.
Well, more importantly to your point.
I've heard they're really fun.
More importantly to your point, not only the discounted fees, but the attorneys are vetted.
Right.
Most of them have over 20 years of experience in the various areas of law. And like Ken said, we only have one attorney in the various areas of law. I'm not spinning a wheel coming up with a new name to provide a union member that I don't know the background of the person that I'm giving them.
So you have a track record.
Yeah,
track record, exactly.
And in something like a divorce, you have someone who not only is a practiced, seasoned divorce attorney, but somebody who's worked with other union members with, similar benefit funds and knows how all of this stuff works. So you're not wasting a bunch of time and, running the meter on hours explaining like, well, I have a pension and here's what a pension is. And they're like, well, we have, you're dealing with someone familiar who understands, who can get through it quickly. But something else that you said that I think is really important to mention is you deal with specialists in different areas of the law. So if somebody says like, hey, I had a car accident, or hey, this happened to me, you're not sending them to a lawyer who's doing a will one day and a real estate attorney the next day. It's not like just some lawyer. You're dealing with a person who deals
specializes in that area of the law,
who's going to represent you properly and give you, based on the volume here, just give you a good rate, save you money for good representation.
I think Nick, you sent me to our guy that does closings, and I can't remember what I paid, but I know it was dirt cheap.
Yeah.
Like it was literally less than half of what I paid for the last house I closed.
Sure,
on.
my real estate attorney Jeff Stell handles all the real estate closings. If you're selling your home, it's $350. And if you're purchasing a home, it's $375.
Can you imagine that?
And that's to take you from the beginning,
he
from
did.
signing the contract to showing up closing.
Yeah, he did. I did my closing from the car because it was in COVID, and he was on the phone. I had somebody running back and forth from the company to my car. It was crazy, but it really worked well. And, I saved a bunch of money. Mm-hmm. I felt confident in this guy.
Exactly.
And so it was wonderful. Another one that you provide is estate planning.
Well, that's your bread and butter, right? That's the world you come from.
That is a bread and butter. It's a very popular program, especially since COVID. The way that got started was back when I was working for the carpenters. Members would come to me, and I didn't offer this at the time, and ask me to do a will for them because they wanted to avoid probate.
Right.
And I would tell them, unfortunately, in Illinois, if your estate's worth more than $100,000, you'll still have to go through the probate process even if you have a will.
Is that process a fun process or not a fun process?
It's a very lengthy process.
Yeah.
Right now in Illinois, in most jurisdictions, the average time is about 18 months.
That's unbelievable. The
And-
last thing you want your kids doing after you pass, or your wife or your
And
husband.
you're going to have an attorney, and that attorney's going to charge you hourly. So it's going to be very long, tedious, and expensive process.
Right.
So going back to that story, the members went out, and again, I didn't offer at the time, and the only way to avoid probate would be to do a revocable living trust or full estate plan. And at the time, the price was $4,000 on up.
Right.
Today, I think it's about $5,000.
Yeah, closer to 6, I think.
Right. They couldn't afford it, so went to the powers that be and said, what if we could offer this to our members for $1,900? We'd give them a great benefit for them and their family, and it's something everybody frankly needs.
Yeah.
And it's been a huge success.
I know it's very, very popular. I also know that our retirees that are in the program take advantage of it quite often.
Absolutely.
And I just went through this, unfortunately with my father when he passed away. Had he had to go into a home, they would have eaten through our entire life savings before he was eligible for Medicare. And with a trust, right? There's a 5-year look-back period. Depends on the state that you're in. We were in New York, and so we had done one, years ago, and I think we paid easy $6,000 or $7,000 for it.
I'm not surprised,
and
right?
So there's so many layers to this. But if you have questions, or you have an elderly parent, or you don't want them to eat through their life savings, pick up the phone and call. And we should say, by the way, how to get a hold of you, because we have not said that yet. You can call Union Legal Services at 877-694-2663. I'm going to say it again. It's 877-694-2663. If you're just joining us, we're talking to Nick Cortesi right now, the head of Union Legal Services that runs the MCL's Legal Services program. I just got to tell you this one quick aside, and this is why this is so unique and so cool. If you call Nick and you call that 877 number and don't leave a message, they'll call you back.
Yeah.
And say,
We
hey,
will.
Who called me?
Yeah, we'll say they'll literally call you back and say, I saw I missed your call. It's so and so from Legal Services. Is everything all right? And who else would do that? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just it's a really, really cool. Like you feel like I know our members, like they feel like they're in good hands with you. They know your name. I know you've given people your cell phone, your emails. You really hold their hands through it. And then when you ship them off to an attorney, I've talked to people that said, yeah, I also talked to Nick. I checked in with him, talked to Ken and said, how's it going? And, making sure, like you said, that our members are getting well taken care of. And if somebody's not performing, then we get rid of that attorney and we bring in somebody else, because people will want this business.
Absolutely. The average person has never used an attorney, and they don't even know the difference,
how it all works.
How it works. They don't know the difference between a personal injury attorney or a workers' compensation attorney.
Right.
Frankly, a lot of times, whether they need a family law attorney or a estate planning attorney.
Or both.
Both, for that matter.
Yeah.
We're there to, again, provide them with legal advice and legal guidance to hopefully solve their legal problems and answer their questions so they don't have to spend money on an attorney.
Yeah, that's good. It's awesome. And so if you're an MCL member, you get this service for free. It's brought to you by the union, right? And if you're not an MCL member, call your union and say, hey, let's join the MCL. It doesn't cost very much, quite frankly. It's a per member per month fee from the union to the MCL, which, by the way, has dropped about 80% since we started, because we have grown organically, right? Like we started, like Nick, we said, 5 unions here, and now we have 400 locals in 12 states throughout the country and 225,000 members, and it's growing. So it's like anything else. Economies of scale. We grow, right?
Yeah.
Price goes down. So
Exactly.
so it's working.
So the reason the MCL can provide these benefits to unions is because the unions pay,
That's right.
they contribute into the MCL.
You got it.
And that, contracts with union legal services or any of the other services
That's
like
exactly
life
right.
insurance
You got
or things like that. So just another benefit of being a member of one of these unions.
And like Ken said, it's growing organically because when unions that are not part of MCL, when their members hear
Right.
about this program and all its benefits,
Yeah.
they want to join.
Oh, no question.
They wanna
about it.
join.
Yeah, we haven't done a single advertisement yet for the MCL. We made our first commercial the other day, which is going to air on the Carpenters Built to Last show.
Right.
And
It's on WGN TV.
And the guy sitting next to me did the voiceover.
Sounded really good.
Terrible job.
Whatever, you get what you pay for.
Yeah, you get what you pay for. Is a good point.
But I will say this: if you're not a union member and you're listening here, something that probably is very valuable that you just learned is if you live in the state of Illinois and you have a will and you think that's all you need, you may want to think again because you, despite your best efforts, best intentions, your kids could wind up in court, your loved ones could wind up in court trying to figure out what happens to your assets after you die. So there's an important difference between a will and a trust, everybody.
And I want to point out to that it's not just Illinois. It's every state.
Okay.
Every state has different thresholds as to what's going to trigger probate and what's not going to trigger probate. So it's every state that we're in and that we represent.
And you could probably Google it, but it's a really good misconception to just get rid of it this moment, right? I was under the same impression. I have a will, boom,
I'm good.
I'm
Exactly.
good. Now, mind you, I won't be worth $100,000 when I die. So, yeah, I did get divorced. So listen, I really want to thank you for taking the time to come
thank you
down here
guys.
on a Sunday
great.
morning. We really appreciate it. I know that the MCL, myself and the board members and the members in general, which are most important, really appreciate the work that you do. It is literally one of the most popular benefits that we offer. So
Thank you.
So thank you so much for doing that. You are listening to the Workers' Mic right here on 720 WGN. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everyone, to the Workers' Mic right here on 720 WGN. I'm Ken. He's Ed. That was pretty interesting, Ed, with Nick, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. If you just missed it, we had Nick Cortesi from Union Legal Services. Great conversation. And again, if you missed it, once the show's over, you can check out YouTube and find the show over there. Look for Workers' Mic and listen to the whole thing. Very, very, very informational.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. I think actually next week we're going to have somebody on that does credit repair as well. Under the auspices of the legal services. So stay tuned for that. We're also trying to get the candidates for the Chicago mayoral race to come in.
That's right. We had a big election in
have them
Chicago.
slug it out.
I think so. I mean, I don't even want to referee. We could just kind of watch.
I don't really care what they have to say. I just want to see who wins in a fight.
Okay.
Is that all right?
I mean, it's one. I don't think they're being approached for those kinds of let's call it a debate, but it wouldn't really be. So
I think when they come in, I'm just gonna I'm gonna try and goad them into an actual fight.
I mean, it doesn't seem like a terrible idea.
Thank you.
We'll try anything once.
I didn't vote for either one of them.
You want to know how we
you?
keep our title as the number one show in America, not just Chicago, but in America?
How?
Get the mayoral candidates to fight each other.
I'm totally down with it.
Okay.
Well, actually, when they come in, for the debate or whatever, we'll have a ring set up and have gloves in here and stuff like that. He said your mom's ugly. I didn't vote for either one of them. And you know who else didn't vote for either one of them? 72% of Chicagoans.
Yeah, it was
crazy low turnout, 20-something percent.
Yeah.
Horrible, terrible. All right, I got to switch gears. First thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, enough about, well, I just ruined our chances of actually having the mayoral.
Yeah, I think they're on to what we're trying to get them to do now.
On my way into work this morning, work if you will.
It's not work if you love it, Ken.
That's right. Never work a day in your life. I stopped at Starbucks, right? Which I'm always conflicted. Should I go? Should I not go? I don't know because I want to continue to support them. But anyway, whatever. I changed my name in Starbucks to Union Yes. So when I get my coffee, it comes up as Union Yes.
And they shout your name, of course.
So I got to give a shout out to Michelle from Starbucks. My favorite, how do you say it? Barista?
Barista.
My favorite barista who wants to continued to call me Kenneth, but I now make her call me Kenneth.
Wow.
That was my old name on the thing. Now it's Union Yes.
Okay.
So this, shouts out Union Yes. I'm like, yeah, all right, Union Yes.
So you got her to yell Union Yes, and now you're giving out her name on the radio. You understand what's going to happen to her.
She's going to be fired probably tomorrow.
Well, at least she got a shout out. It's because Starbucks is evil, everybody.
Yeah.
Well,
true.
it's my opinion that Starbucks is evil.
And speaking about evil, what about medieval?
Medieval times.
Medieval times are on strike.
Old favorite friend of the show.
Did we not call that?
Yeah, the castle's on strike.
The castle has gone on strike. The
peasants are camped outside.
Right? They're coming with the pitchforks and the striking.
In California,
It was like Santa Cruz, I think.
Yeah, they've shut down the castle.
And you know what this knight said?
What did the knight say?
He said, I'm making, I don't know, something like $18 an hour. He's like, I can't live here for $18 an hour. But that's where the castle is located.
I wonder if he said it like that or if he said it like an old
English.
Yeah.
Like,
I wish I could even do it. I've got nothing.
I can't do one either. But you get the gist of it.
Yeah, it'd be pretty funny.
So let me Ed, let me read you something, and you tell me what you think about it, okay?
Sounds like a great, really good time.
Yeah, no, it's going to be really fun. The labor movement in the United States has a long and storied history, dating back to the early 19th century when workers began to organize themselves into unions in order to advocate for better working conditions and higher wages. Today, the labor movement in the U.S. continues to play a crucial role in protecting workers' rights and improving working conditions across a range of industries and sectors. One of the key issues that the labor movement is currently grappling with in the U.S. is income inequality. Blah 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 blah.
Are you writing a term paper? Are you trying to get your GED or something?
So my point is that sounded pretty cool, and if I had read it with any ounce of emotion, it would have sounded really cool. But I didn't write that. You know who wrote that?
Let me guess.
Go ahead.
ChatGPT.
That's exactly right.
Wow.
I typed in, write an essay about today's labor movement in the United States. And I can read, I'm not going to bore you with the reading the whole thing. It was all positive, by the way, which was really interesting. Mm-hmm. But it wrote this article, an essay about the labor movement and, hit on topics like, income inequality and the gig economy, Uber and TaskRabbit and things like that. And really, really interesting, but really scary, right?
That these AI bots can write these things now?
It's scary. I think if you're a journalist right now, right, if you're working for a newspaper, you got to be worried.
I mean, the thing I think about it is that what you read is very good. And if you were a sixth grader writing a history paper about the labor movement, I'd say you get an A.
Right.
But if you're in college, it's not necessarily the case. And I will say this. I've read articles about, here are the top 10 jobs that ChatGPT is going to put out of business.
Right.
And it's like computer programmers, finance people, accounting people, writers. And it's like every job. They're saying ChatGPT is going to put everybody out of work doing everything.
You don't think that's the case?
No, I mean, I think that, there are things that are invented or things that come up where everyone's like, okay, it's all over. They're going to take all these jobs. And in most cases, we have yet to see it happen. So I'm not really worried about ChatGPT until they make it a physical thing and attach a gun to it. And then I will run, I will shelter, and I'll still stand no chance.
It's like Skynet.
Yeah,
well, then I hate to be the one to break the news to you, but you are no longer needed because I have ChatGPT as my co-host now.
Well, that's a terrible surprise. You said you had a surprise for me. That's a bad surprise. I guess I should probably go.
Anyway, enough about that. I would like to thank you, our listeners, our wonderful film crew. Like Ed said, you could see it right here on YouTube, or not here on YouTube. You could see our show on YouTube, the unedited version. Thanks, WGN, for having us, and we look forward to next week. You've been listening to The Workers' Mic right here on 720 WGN.
So long.